Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 here to do power rankings. As we are 12 games into the conference season. Blake, let's start at the bottom. South Carolina has been last all season long, but the Gamecocks beat Ole Miss in Oxford. And guess what? They're still last, but they got company. We got a three-way tie between LSU and Ole Miss and South Carolina at the bottom.
Yep. And I'll tell you why, because I put South Carolina at 12. I mean, look, if I'm using the neutral court theory right now, I take South Carolina over Ole Miss or LSU on a neutral court. I mean, people
What about
argue
in
that.
Columbia?
In Columbia? What do you mean? I mean, they almost beat Arkansas by 2. Yeah, they almost beat Arkansas by 2 a week ago. I mean,
okay.
I mean, they lost by 2 points. So I get it. Like we've said before, we have to factor in the full body of work. I know we go to the computers, but I don't care what the computers say right now. I watch the games, and what I've seen the past 2 weeks tells me that I think South Carolina is playing better and is better right now than Ole Miss or LSU. But I'm not going to say anyone's wrong who disagrees with that, because we're still talking about a 9-16 team. But who's trending in the right direction right now of the three? Is there that much difference between these three teams?
I mean, right now, South Carolina's playing better, but you know what? 2 weeks ago, we had a debate whether Tennessee or Alabama were playing better.
True. But
actually, we didn't have a debate. Tennessee was playing better than Alabama 2 weeks ago. I just saying, right. I don't throw out everything. I think
I'm not either.
The other things matter too.
Yeah, I agree. But I don't think the computers are like I'm not the computer guy. Like I just don't. Like I'm beyond that now. Like again, if there's not that much that separates three teams, and if you can tell me with 100% confidence that there's something that separates beyond just, I get it. Like they're 9-16. And again, I'm not going to go too much further into this because I'm not like, this isn't my,
you mean we're not going to 2 minutes on LSU, Ole Miss, and South Carolina?
No, we're not we're not going to do that. But yeah, like that's just, I voted South Carolina 12 because again, if we're doing this for these power rankings for this week, I think their power is more than the other two teams right now. So there you go. There's my reason, because LSU's on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. LSU's on a 12-game losing streak, right?
Oh,
11-game losing streak. What is it?
Yeah.
So if you really are that confident that you're going to, and look, it's the toughest SEC 12-game stretch we've ever seen. Or excuse me. Yeah, that's right. 12 games. I don't know what it is. Something like that. Yeah. They've lost 12 games in a row. So forgive me for not having a lot of confidence in a team that's lost 12 in a row. I don't care who it's against. They've lost 12 games in a row. And so that's why I found it hard to put LSU in front of anybody, to be honest with you. And it's just, but like I mentioned, that it won't be that way at the end of the season. Right? Because they finally get a break in the schedule. Because, well, I say that, Chris, we thought they were getting a break. Now they got to go play Georgia, just beat Kentucky. So I don't know. This thing may continue. But for me, I decided, you know what? Let me give South Carolina some props in our theoretical power rankings that don't mean a jack to anybody. Give me South Carolina ahead of somebody for once. So there you go.
Okay. Well, I feel like Georgia's sort of a fixture in the 11 spot right now, which is where we have Georgia this week. Georgia's played poorly for 3 weeks in a row until it played well enough to beat Kentucky on Saturday. Still not a big believer in Georgia better than this. But you know what? The Bulldogs are 5-7, which Georgia played Mississippi State. Those are the two teams that are tied right now.
Georgia beat them
for 10th. Okay, so right now State would be in the Wednesday night game, and Georgia would not. But anyway, I mean, a lot's going to change between now and then. But if you're keeping track of these things, there you have it.
I mean, look, it's the first time I don't have my rankings in front of me because I had to tell them to you verbally. So I'm gonna throw you off somewhere and say, oh, I don't remember saying that. I think I had Georgia 11. Did I not? I think I did.
You did.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
You did.
So yeah, I mean, they got a big win. They haven't been playing well, but it's a big win. Maybe again now they got LSU. Man, poor LSU, man. I don't know what else to say. Anyways, on to the next one.
All right, we got Florida at 10. Florida, I think, was 5th a week ago.
I thought I had South Carolina at 10. I'm just kidding.
You might have.
Florida at
What
10.
do you say? Florida and Vandy battling it out for 9 and 10. Vandy wins in Gainesville. Vandy gets the edge there. And here we are.
Yep. Florida. Yeah, Florida. I mean, I don't think Florida's been a disappointment. I don't think it's unfair to say that.
I agree.
I mean, there's maybe some people defending it, but like it's a disappointing season. They're 13 and 12, and they've lost 3 in a row. And look, like I said, the schedule's been tough for Florida. They've certainly not had an easy schedule, and we mentioned that earlier in the season when they're losing to a lot of good teams, and but they just have not been able to find that consistency because they have played a tough schedule, and so. But still, it's disappointing, I think, to be 13 and 12, and so yeah, Vanderbilt's ahead of them right now because why? Yes, Vanderbilt lost to Grambling 2 months ago, but they are in the better spot right now, in my opinion, and they've won 3 in a row. And yeah, give me the Commodores over Florida in this spot right now.
Okay, here's where we had disagreement. In fact, we were lockstep on our top 6 in the same order, but you had Kentucky at 7. I had Mississippi State at 7. The other one of us had the other one at 8. So that's where we settle in a tie. And frankly, I don't know how you defend. Well, okay. I do know how you defend.
Did I have Kentucky ahead of State?
You did. Kentucky is 7-5 in the league and State is 5-7. Now there's been a disparity in competition in who they've played, but that is how we settled for this week. Although I guess you can change your vote as we speak.
Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion on this one. This isn't the South Carolina stance here. It's funny
because you pick South Carolina as your hill to die on. That's great.
One of my bro throw bets that won this weekend, of all the teams I bet on, it was South Carolina, and again, right, it won. So that's the momentum here. South Carolina's putting cash in my pocket.
You know what, dummy? Put a small $5 wager on Kentucky to cover 7 in Athens.
Yeah, well, I don't know why you did that, but
yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm fine with Mississippi State. I mean, again, if you're just looking at the picture right now, would I take Mississippi State or would I take Kentucky? I would take Mississippi State because of how they play defense. And remember, in this 5-game winning streak, they've beaten TCU, they've beaten Missouri, and they've beaten Arkansas now, and they've beaten South Carolina. Don't forget about the Gamecocks. So yeah, I mean, I'm fine with putting Mississippi State at 7 and Kentucky at 8 because, again, I mean, really, Kentucky has no positive momentum whatsoever. They've just lost by 15 at home against Arkansas. They lost at Georgia. And guess what, Chris? All this debate is going to be settled when?
On Wednesday.
That'll be settled on Wednesday. So we'll come back. We'll regroup next week and decide where we're going to put Kentucky and Mississippi State. So
in Starkville, by the way. All right, I'm going to ask you this on Kentucky. Last time everybody buried Kentucky, Kentucky had just gotten blown out by Alabama and then lost inexplicably at home to South Carolina. And by the way, Kentucky also has C.J. Frederick and Xavier Wheeler out, or at least they were out last time out. Last time we had Kentucky dead and buried, the Wildcats win 6 of their next 7, the one loss in there to Kansas at home. Did the Cats have it in them again to rebound from this? I mean, I know the talent's there, but
I mean, I'm not going to bet on it because I bet on what I've seen, and still what I've seen is in all the big games -2, they've not been able to pull out wins, and they got some big games left. So
they could. They're not going to. I don't think Kentucky could finish the season on an 8-game losing streak going into Nashville.
Well, if they don't play better, they sure could. But
because Mississippi State on the road, Tennessee and Knoxville, Florida and Gainesville, Auburn and Vandy at home, and Arkansas. Oh, did I say?
Yeah, you said
Knoxville. I say Knoxville. That's in Lexington. I'm sorry. And then Vandy and Auburn in Lexington and Arkansas in Fayetteville.
None of those
are pushovers.
I think they're going to win some of these games because they should bounce back if everybody's available. but they still got Oscar Tshiebwe, and I know some people aren't going to like that. Kentucky fans are frustrated with him, but he's going to do some things that are still going to give him a chance to win in some of these. But, he could go off for one of those Oscar type games. But no, I mean, I don't have a lot of confidence in a team that's on a losing streak, losing by 15 at home, and then losing by 7 on the road. So, but if you're looking at past history, yeah, they got blown out at Alabama, lost home to South Carolina, and they won at Tennessee. So maybe they get a win in Starkville, but we'll decide that in our picks when we do our video for that.
Okay, Arkansas. We've been higher on the Razorbacks for a while. They've been playing very well for a month. We've got them at 6 this week. Nick Smith Jr. comes back. They lose to State in Fayetteville. Blake, does that game change your opinion on the Razorbacks at all, or was that just a blip in the road?
Look, can we say this, and this will not be heard by some people, but I think most people understand. We are doing power rankings now in mid-February, and it's like I think you pretty much know what these teams are. And so when we're saying this team should be ahead of this team, or this team's better ahead of this team, or this team's here at 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever, there's not a lot that separates them at this point because, like, I think you know what you're getting. You have a 25 game body of work. So, for example, Arkansas. One day Arkansas may be in this spot. The next day, Mississippi State may be in the spot, or somebody else. Right? That's just the way it is. Like, I think power rankings, especially this time of year, we do them because this is one of our weekly things, but I just don't think there's a lot that changes that much this time of year. Outside
of we know what Arkansas can be if it clicks on all cylinders.
Yeah.
If Smith is, I mean, this is the team that could get to the second weekend of the tournament easily. Neither of us have ever said that. It's just, I mean, this team's lost 8 games. It's had some health issues. There are questions.
I mean, look at how many SEC teams have lost at least 6 games or 7 games, it's a lot. A lot of teams have lost at least 7 or 8 games this season. And so, again, you don't have those teams that are just not losing somewhere. But I don't knock Arkansas for losing at home to Mississippi State because, as we just said, Mississippi State's a team on the rise. They're playing as well as anybody in the league, won 5 in a row. So, no, I don't. My opinion on Arkansas doesn't change with a home loss to Mississippi State, who absolutely had to have that one, as we said. And Nick Smith's back. First game isn't going to be beautiful, but I think Arkansas is fine.
We had Auburn ahead of Arkansas. Honestly, I don't know that that's the right call, but it'll play itself out soon enough.
Again, one has one more SEC win.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is Auburn's problem is the quality wins at this point, and they've lost 4 or 5, right? I think is it 4 or 5, or is it 5 or 6
5
now?
of 6.
5 or 6. Well, but I also think, remember, they're going through a stretch that we've seen
all those teams that they lost to are probably going to the tournament, other than maybe West Virginia.
Well, and that's the thing. They're going through a stretch that, I think a lot of teams would struggle in. And remember, if you look at it, Texas A&M twice, Tennessee, Alabama, that's 4 of the 5. Then West Virginia, which is just an impossible team to play style-wise. We talked about from a stylistic standpoint. That's just, those are all tough matchups for anybody, just in terms of the matchup of how those teams play. So I'm not ready to, I know Auburn has a problem in terms of not having enough good wins. I get that argument. But, and like I said, if you want to put Arkansas ahead of them, you want to put anybody else ahead of them, all right, whatever. We're splitting hairs at this point. I still think that Auburn's a team that certainly has more of a ceiling than they had last year, but I think they're going to be okay. Like, that's why I think, again, it's like I've seen them now for 25 games and they've lost some of these close ones. West Virginia by 3, Tennessee by 3, A&M by 5, Alabama by 8. Those are all close games, and the ball doesn't bounce your way. And 3 of those are on the road too. Let's not forget that. So yeah, schedule hasn't been great for Auburn these past, several ones, but I still think they're okay. Like, I just put it that way. They're 7-5 in the league, so they're okay despite dropping 5 of 6. So
Missouri at 4.
Yep.
Tigers coming off that huge win at Tennessee. It's hard to really argue. I guess you could argue Missouri a spot higher maybe, but this seems like a good fit for them. The computers don't like Missouri as much. Missouri doesn't play defense, but the body of work is sure adding up.
Yeah, and that's what we said. Like at some point, it's what you've seen is kind of the picture that you start to form in your mind. And we have seen them go 19-6 now. And it's just kind of, we can say, well, they don't do this or they don't do that, and they're a bad rebounding team. Yep, yep. Like you're right, but they just keep winning. And as we said, sometimes you get a little luck on your side, and they've just found a way to win some of these games. And that's the name of the game, right? You just have to win games, and they've done that outside of 6 games this season. So, yeah, I think Missouri is, you know, I think they should be right here right now because they've kind of earned the spot. And like we said, we have some flip. Could they flip with Auburn if Auburn beats them on Tuesday? Maybe, but that's where we got to in the power rankings at this point in the season. Like, I don't think any of us are just gonna beyond Alabama and Texas A&M. How could any of us just have a surefire, 100% confident argument about any of these other teams, right? Like, how could we do that? Because we've seen the bad of A&M, but that was a long time ago. Alabama, we haven't seen much bad of. But everybody else, like we've seen the good, but boy, we've seen some stretches where they not been very good. And so that's kind of ties in the bracketology, right? We've said, I mean, in terms of teams that are just absolute locks, um, Missouri's one of those teams that's moving in the right direction now. And getting a win at Tennessee, that certainly gives them a boost. So,
all right, this is the part where the computers would scream at us. All the computers have Texas A&M well behind Tennessee. That's not the order we went.
don't care.
I don't either. We both went Tennessee 3, A&M 2, Alabama 1. And based, look, results, I get computers. Predictive computers are built on scoring margins and are you close? And it's Tennessee's 11 games in which it has held opponents under 50. But by the way, the Vols this time a week ago, Blake, Tennessee had given up 80.1 points per 70 possessions on the year. In 2 games, that number flew up to 84. Defense has been getting hit pretty hard lately. The Vols offense is still just okay. I don't know, based on results, how you could really rank these 3 teams in any other different order. And of course, the selection committee will. And based on its criteria, it should right now. But we are telling you what we see, and we see Alabama 1, A&M 2, and Tennessee 3.
We are not ranking NCAA tournament resumes.
That is correct.
These are power rankings. Like these are based on, right? Like where we see these teams just as people who watch the games. And like you said, computers will factor into that. But so we're all going to have our own sort of biases, right? Like there may be certain things we value more than others. And so there'll be people that'll, again, and they'll have their own reasons why this team should be ahead of this team. But that's good. That's what makes for, that's why this is such a fun discussion every week. But for me, like, like you just said, Tennessee's defense was not always just going to be perfect. And the one thing I brought up recently is the problem is now when they're not perfect, it is putting a lot of pressure on them offensively. And I don't know that this is a team that needs a lot of pressure on it offensively because again, the defense was helping really carry a lot of things, even though they can score. We know they can score. We saw it against Missouri, right? When they get going, they start hitting shots. Look out. Like Tennessee can play with anybody if they're that good on defense. But when you see those numbers start to slip a little bit defensively, which we said it's still remarkable that they're first in as many categories as they are, despite not playing well on that side of the floor in a couple of these recent games, you also have to exhale a little bit, knowing that, like we said, how many times have we seen an SEC play in the past 20 years, more, 50 years, whatever? How many teams have lost back-to-back games at the buzzer, right? Probably not a lot. So you think about just literally
on
the ball
3-pointers
bounces
too.
Yeah, the ball bounces a different way. The ball just has to bounce a different way twice, one game each. And all of a sudden, Tennessee is firmly sitting at number 2 and firmly sitting as a number 2 seed with very little to worry about the rest of the way, probably outside of just, a collapse or somewhere. So, it's one of those things where our opinion, I think, of moving A&M to 2, to me, and you can disagree with this if you want, but this is more about A&M than Tennessee for me.
Yes.
Because I keep saying A&M is I get it. There will be people that hold November the 17th against A&M or December the 20th. But all I've seen since then is a team that is the second best team in the league. And, the 2 games they've dropped at Kentucky and at Arkansas. Well, oh boy, they lost at Rupp and they lost at Bud Walton. Okay, that could happen to anybody. So, yeah, I think this is way more about A&M to me. And when you watch how they're playing right now, I feel like that it makes sense, not just they are the second team in the SEC from a standings perspective at 10-2. But man, again, I keep going back to it. I just love the way they're playing. I don't love the way Tennessee is playing in the past couple weeks. So maybe that was enough, to kind of swap them. But I also think you just have to reward the team that is really doing some pretty remarkable things like A&M is. But guess what can happen, Chris, as we said, because you're splitting hairs this time of year. Tennessee beats Alabama on Wednesday. Guess where the Vols are probably going next week? They win it. They beat Alabama. If they win at Kentucky, all is well in Knoxville, and the Vols are right back there on the 2 seed line. Or they probably still are. I mean, they're still right there in terms of, like I said, the computers love them. So there's no reason to get too upset either way here.
All right. We got scolded in the comments last week.
Not
talking enough about Alabama. We did. You don't
read
the comments. I do.
I'm sorry, everyone. I do sometimes, but I just more on Twitter. So
because we did not talk enough about Alabama in our power rank. Now, look, if you have listened to our other videos, we have talked plenty.
Do we have a timer?
Alabama.
Give me a timer. Can I put one on the screen?
How much you need? I'll
give me a timer.
I'll run one right now. How much time you need?
I'll take 15 minutes on Alabama alone.
Oh, please.
I'd like to go back through their entire 25 game stretch here.
You know what? I'm gonna hit the stopwatch. So
we're playing with you guys. I don't know who was that said that, but if you've tuned in to our coverage the entire season, I'm willing to bet we've talked about Alabama a little bit. Because they just happen to be 22-3 and 12-0 in the SEC now. And, I don't know what else to say. At what point, what else do we say about Alabama?
I don't know.
What else do we say that we haven't already
Brandon
said?
Miller, he's really good.
12-0 in the SEC.
There's a lot of it. Nate Oates, he can coach.
Well, look, they've not allowed more than 69 points in a game. It's a nice stat. In SEC play, I thought I was going to be able to put out the stat that if there are 12 wins, it would have been 11 by double digits, but Auburn hit the shot at the buzzer to make it an 8-point game instead of a 10-point game. So, yeah, so take that down. So maybe we should knock them a little bit now that 10 of their 12 wins are only by double digits in SEC play. What else do I have? Brandon Miller's really good. Rylan Griffin stepped up big time. That's what we keep saying about this team. They've got so many options to work with. Man, you just think about this freshman group. Going to go down as one of the better one in SEC history, just in terms of what this freshman group has done. Of course, Brandon Miller leading the way on that. But, yeah, I mean, that's why we don't talk a lot about Alabama, because it's a given at this point. They're the best team in the league. They're one of the best teams we've ever seen in the SEC through 12 games. Like, that's not me exaggerating. It's just the numbers tell you that's true. They got a great win at Auburn. We've already talked about that in another video. I think there was a stat somewhere, and I think it was Andrew Parrish who put it on Twitter, and I wish I could find it if Andrew's watching this. Send me the tweet again. But it got lost in my mentions somewhere. But something about how long it's been since a team has started 12-0 in league play and not given up more than 69 points. It's been like ridiculous number. I don't know, it was 1970, 50, something like that. So it's been a long time since that happened. Tuscaloosa, great food in the city of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I'm trying to continue this on here, but
good football in Tuscaloosa.
About all I got is Alabama is remarkable, and look, we're playing around with this, but look, guys, as we said, what else do we say? Like, they are. I've said it many times now. I think they're the best team in the country. I've been saying that for a month. And, the Oklahoma game, we said, what's their response going to be? Well, how has Alabama responded since that Oklahoma game? Beat Vanderbilt by 57, won at LSU, beat Florida, blew out Florida at home. Now they get a gritty win at Auburn. Now they got to go get another one at Tennessee, a team who absolutely needs this one. So that's a tough spot for Alabama. But I don't want to put the jinx in, so I'm not going to say it. But if Alabama wins at Tennessee, we may not talk a lot about Alabama the rest of the way because, if you don't want the jinx to be in of what that could mean in terms of what we're looking at here, you tie all that together, you can do the math, but what a game that could be on Wednesday in Knoxville. So the Alabama Crimson Tide, number 1 in our SEC basketball power rankings for this week. How'd I do? Only 3.5 minutes. I
3 minutes and
longer
20.
than that.
See, so now the narrative is going to be Blake can only talk about Alabama.
Listen,
for 3 minutes and 29 seconds.
I'm not picking on the commenters. I don't know why you're picking on the commenters here. Okay, we're not picking on these folks. They're fine folks, and hey, listen. Let me defend them for a second. Okay, I don't know what the comments were, but I'm going to defend them for a second. When your team is doing what Alabama is doing this season, you want to hear all about them, and I would be the same way. I want to hear a lot about this team because they are going to go down potentially. I'm going to say that as one of the best we've ever seen in league play. So we'll see if they get there, but that's the potential scenario that could play out here, depending on the rest of the way. So I understand why people want to hear more about the number 1 team in the country, in my opinion, not just in the SEC.
Yeah, it may have just been one commenter, but
boy, that poor commenter just set you off, didn't he? My goodness.
I didn't know he set you off.
Don't unsubscribe. Hit that subscribe button. If you don't like Chris picking on the commenters,
if you don't like me, hit the subscribe button. Right.
See, we're doing the reverse psychology thing. Hit that like button if you don't appreciate Chris doing this. But in all honesty, we're just having fun here.
Yeah.
If you've watched our previous videos, you know how this works. We have fun with this stuff. So
we have a lot of fun. We have it across football, baseball, and basketball. And there's a ton of baseball stuff coming, by the way.
Yeah.
And we try to stay on top of football. Occasionally we sleep and spend time with our families. Best way to get all that stuff, the other 2 things aside, is hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button, too. That helps us. He's Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We're Southeastern 14. We'll see you again soon.